This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. The information contained in this podcast is intended for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for individual professional legal advice. The podcast information was carefully compiled from vetted sources and references. However, Rose Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly cannot guarantee that you will not fall victim to a scam. Let's talk about scams. It's the must-listen show for anyone who wants to protect themselves and their loved ones from scams. Every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time on K4HD Radio, Joyce Petrowski, founder of Rose, and her guests will provide valuable insights and practical tips on how to recognize and protect yourself from scams. And now, here is your host, Joyce Petrowski.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Joyce Petrowski, board president, and founder of Rose Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly. You can find more information on our website at roseadvocacy.org. You'll find all of our social media channels at the top of the homepage. Scroll down to the bottom of the homepage and you'll find where you can sign up for our emailed newsletters. And we also do one in the mail as well. And we have a safety checklist that you can download there as well. Today we have a guest with us, and we're going to be talking about passwords and password managers and passkeys and updates to your devices. So our guest is David Hawkins, and with deep roots in both physical and cybersecurity, David's skills cover everything from identity management and access control to compliance and risk solutions. He has conducted hundreds of workshops and thousands of POCs in vendor cyber risk management. So let's welcome David.
Hello. Good to meet you.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you today?
Good. Why don't you take a few minutes and tell everyone a little bit more about you and what you do?
Sure. So I've had a pretty long career of different things. I was military early in my career. Then I went into IT. And when I was in IT, one day I was working with a sales team, and the sales team said, "We're having a problem with this software." I solved the problem. And I also showed them that they were doing something a little off.
Okay.
And they said, "You should be our pre-sales engineer." And I said, "What's that?" So I said, they told me what it was. And I said, "That sounds fun. I'll do that."
Okay.
And I've been doing that for the last 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And I've represented products from Symantec, RSA Security, Computer Associates, and Tyco Fire and Security, all of these different companies, and had a ton of hands-on experience working with the tools and helping customers figure out what to do with those tools.
Okay, very good. And I actually met you through one of Rose's advisory board members, Brian. You used to work with Brian.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, he and I worked together at Symantec.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So we discussed this, and we were going to talk about, let's start with the passwords and password managers, and we can incorporate passkeys and stuff into that. So I actually did a presentation yesterday in a retirement community, and there's quite a lot of people there. There was probably 45 or 50. And it's interesting when I get to the point in the presentation about passwords. That's in our resource, our identity theft protection and cyber safety resource packet. I hear this, a little bit of a groan, right? So I always kind of make light of it and say, okay, who here likes passwords? Everybody's like, no, I've had one person say, and it was a younger lady who liked tech and all of that stuff. So one of the things we talk about is, every year I see this survey, and I don't remember which company does it and puts it out, but they say it's definitely over half, maybe 2/3 of the people that they survey, they are still using password 123.
Yeah.
Now, whether they've elected to use it or whatever software they're creating the account with, it gave them that as an initial password and then never made them change it. So they've just left it. But that just baffles me that
Mhm.
people are still using that. And I think maybe even some of the people in our presentations are using it, right? Or they're using um, their names and their birth date or their pet's name or their anniversary date or, because it's easy to remember, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So one of the things we talk to them about is, having a phrase
Mhm.
and then changing the phrase to having some symbols and some numbers. But even that, right? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Sure. So one of the first things is a lot of people don't understand what is vulnerable when it comes to the passwords. Now, when it comes to hacking a password, there are two real methods. The first method is brute force, which means
Yes.
have some software in the background
Mhm.
going to just try 100,000 passwords until it figures which one. Generally speaking, if you use that method of attack, what we've discovered is that it would take something like 1,000 years of a typical attempt, one after another, for a password that's longer than 16 characters. So the length of your password is probably one of the most important parts to defeat that brute force attack.
Okay, that's interesting.
Okay. Now, here's the second part, and this is the better part of the world where I came from, which is all of the companies out there. There's a couple different parts of why you use a password that matters. First one, you log into your computer.
Mhm.
That one there, brute force is almost impossible because you're going to try, you're going to try, you're going to try 5 times. Your system locks you out. It takes 20
Right,
minutes. It's going to
right.
take 1,000 years if it was a random number. Now, here's the other part that gets difficult when it comes to passwords, which is people use something like you said, the name of their dog, the name of their
Right,
cat, the name of their family
right,
house or town or
right.
whatever. And that is hackable not because of multiple tries, but because you end up sharing that information on social
Online.
media, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Who's my dog? Spot. And next
exactly.
thing you know, it's Spot 123.
I wanna wish my dog Spot a happy birthday. He's 10 years old today. Well, boom, you've just given your password out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right. I've seen these videos where somebody will be, doing interviews and they're really trying to see how quick somebody gives up their password. And
Mhm.
literally within a minute or two, just by engaging in friendly conversation, they will have given up they'll not actually say it, but through
To give up the detail.
prompting, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I use my dog's name and my birth date." And then the
Yep.
person will go, "Oh, so your password is," and they'll say it, and then that person goes, "Oh, I
Oops.
just gave it up."
And
Right?
they also gave the tell that said, "Oh, by the way, I just gave you something valuable."
Yes, exactly, right? Exactly. But so you mentioned the more important thing is to have at least 16 characters or
Yeah.
more. But a lot of people talk about how you have to have upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols.
Mhm.
But then, like when you go to set up a password with like a lot of financial institutions, they're only allowing you between 8 and 12 characters, but they have to have all four of those the symbols,
Mhm.
the upper lowercase, and the numbers. So how does that make it just as safe if it's only 12 characters?
It doesn't necessarily make it just as safe. The number of characters by default is actually the hardest thing. Now,
Okay.
so you could actually do all lowercase and no symbols and no numbers, and the statistical amount that people will have to crunch through is still pretty high. But it's
Okay.
still not a best practice. A really good password has uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols, right?
Mhm.
Because that that is changing the nature of the type of thing. So instead, what I usually recommend is have a passphrase, which you mentioned at the
Yeah.
beginning. And the way that passphrase works, most people think, oh, I got to come up with 8 words, and they'll look around their desk and say monitor, keyboard,
Right.
light,
Yeah.
and then they'll take those and they say, I have 2 lights and I have 1 keyboard. So there's your numbers and your words, right? And nobody can see what's in front of you when you're on a computer like this.
Right.
It's not the worst thing to do. But how do you remember that password when you're not sitting in front of your
True.
desk? If you're on
True.
a trip and you still have to log in. So I do things like I like 2 cups of Lavazza coffee in the morning, right? That whole sentence, I can remember that pretty easily. And then what I would do is I got the 2 in there, and then I just capitalize every other
Right.
word or every word, and I just remember that's the method. Remember the past phrase, and then stick like
A
I like
symbol.
Lavazza exclamation point, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. So, some people have, and that's the one thing that we, tell them, right, not to use any information in your phrase that you would normally share
Right.
online. And
Exactly.
I had somebody once tell me that they used a Bible verse. And
Oh, sure.
I actually was like, well, you got to be careful with that because
If you
Bibles are
don't
all
quote it often.
online. And if it's a more common, right, Bible
Mm,
phrase, then that's something that can be easily put into the software.
yeah,
They can
exactly.
prompt the software to look for common Bible phrases and make some changes. So is it better to then like look around or do something like you did as long as you don't let people know,
Mhm,
right, on social
exactly.
media or whatever, like on if you're playing online games or if you're on a dating site or whatever, you don't let people know I like to I like Lavazza or whatever,
Right.
if I said that right, because
Mhm.
then once you put that out there, then somebody could say, well, that might be their passphrase.
Sure. Well, think about it this way. Um, there are a lot of different versions of the Bible. So if you said
True.
New King James, and then what I suggest in this case is not to pick the most popular verse. Think of it as a deep cut. What is your favorite that is not a popular one?
Right. Yeah.
Right? That's one that's not gonna get bandied about, and, you might say it
Right.
once in a blue moon, but still, do they know which Bible you chose? And that
True.
helps
True.
to, 'cause
There are right.
my
There are
dad
a
has
lot of
5 different Bibles, and
right.
he goes between all of them.
Right. There are a lot of different versions. Again, as long as you're not posting online and talking about this is my favorite version, or if you are a specific faith and they only have one, whether it's a Bible, a book, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Then that's easier to, if you're a specific faith and they only have one Bible, one version of it, one book,
Yeah,
one version of it, whatever it's called, um, that's going to make it easier to figure out because
right.
you don't have all these different versions that it could be. So that's true. I didn't think about that. All of
Yeah,
the different
and then
versions that there
there
are.
you just have to think of what can I bring to the table that's unique? I mean, think of it one other way. What if that Bible was orange
Yeah,
instead of brown or blue or something
right.
like
They
that?
come in all different colors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are things that you can have in your life. Maybe you buy a special leather cover for yours, right?
Yeah.
So you have all of these things where you customize for your own thing. I have a bookmark, right? I put the
Right.
bookmark in. What kind is it? Silk? Is it a paper? So
Right.
you have all of these ways that you can tweak and get unique and different data that isn't obvious and isn't something that just anybody would know. Maybe your most closest relative might know, and that may be okay. Maybe that's what you want, anyways.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's just so many things. I
Mhm.
mean, I actually remember back in the day where we didn't have passwords.
I do too.
I mean, you just got into your account, right? Kinda
Yep.
like you left your house unlocked, you left your car sitting in the driveway unlocked, right? And
Mhm.
how the world has changed,
It has,
right? That it's
definitely.
like it's a habit now to make sure all your doors and windows are locked, and we have alarm systems, right?
Mhm.
And if you're staying by yourself, if your spouse is not with you, especially that happens with me, I turn the alarm on.
Yep.
Um, but to the point, the last time I did it, I forgot and opened up one of the doors the next morning, and it went blaring. Um, but yeah, the world has just changed so
It
much.
definitely has. Yeah, and
Yeah,
by the way, it's going to change a lot more.
it will.
Um, Most people are nowheres near aware of how dramatic, AI, for example,
Yes.
is going to be changing things in the next 2 to 10 years. So
Yeah,
our
it's,
world online is going to be, in some respects, almost unrecognizable in 2 to 5 years because of those changes.
yeah, I mean, AI really has only been really out in the public for 5, maybe 7
Mhm.
years,
Exactly.
but people
However, it's been around a long time, 50
it
years
has.
since it started roughly. Um, when I was, in physical security, which was back around 2002, we were building what we called man traps, which is when you go into a mall and there's a set of doors and then another set of doors?
Yes, yes.
So sometimes they have these entries going into a building, and they'll have a checkpoint for somebody from a security perspective on the side of that front door and entry.
Okay.
And this is back when, SARS came out. Remember SARS? I don't know if you remember this, but it was just like COVID, but
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
the early edition.
Mhm.
So we were designing these things where they would walk in the front door, there was a camera above the inner door, and it would actually get your temperature, and it would lock the door if you had a temperature over 100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is and we had to use AI back then. This is the 2001 to 2003 timeframe
Yeah,
in
so it
order to
has.
determine whether or not we should open the door, close the door,
Right.
allow the person in, not allow them in, and what their temperature was, and then
Yeah.
use which camera associated with which door. The whole thing was AI.
Right, right. Um, so now that we've brought AI into it and we have all of these, passkeys, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
I would imagine that has some sort of AI component to it
Mhm.
because it's built on the biometric information using
Exactly.
a facial scan, a fingerprint,
Mhm.
or a pin.
Yep.
And, like, for my laptop, when it's locked and it locks after, 30 seconds or something like that, you have to have my fingerprint, right,
Right.
to open it up, or you have to know the password. Um,
Mhm.
but what are your what are your thoughts on that? I've read a lot of security people say that that's safer
It
than
is.
using a password, and I think part of the reason, and I don't know if it's a lot of the reason, is because we like to reuse passwords. We use the ones that are very easy to crack.
Mhm.
But maybe there's some other reasons why it's considered safer.
Sure. Yeah, I can get into that a little bit. So, when you use a mobile device or you use a physical device, like on a lot of laptops now, they have a fingerprint scanner,
Yep.
they have the camera for facial recognition. So, a lot of people fear those technologies because they think it's taking their personal information.
Yes.
So the first part is, let me allay your fear. It is not that. When
Okay.
you do the fingerprint, it plots out a bunch of points and it becomes a little mathematical snippet. It's not taking your fingerprint. So nobody's getting your fingerprint. Nobody's
Okay.
getting your actual face. They catch a bunch of little plot points and they can tell by the cheek height, the eyebrow height, the chin height, all of that, where you are different from somebody else. So
Okay.
it's figuring out depth, it's figuring out the dimensions, it's figuring out skin coloring in some cases, and those types of facial recognition or biometrics are not capturing your likeness or personal data. They're only making a calculation and using AI to then, well, it's not even using AI. It's using an encryption technology where
Okay.
the encryption crunches that information down into a small little number. And that randomized number is then assigned to your identity on the system. And
Okay.
it looks for that number. It's called a hash.
Okay.
So every time you come onto the computer, there's a hash of when you do the facial recognition, the thing that you have, the phone, has a tool that identifies who you are based on the picture or the fingerprint scan.
Okay.
And that is kept as just a little number inside the phone. It does it all locally here. It doesn't send it up to a server. It
Okay.
just does it right here. And then
Okay.
once you do that biometric, it pairs the two together, and it says that that's pretty unique because you have this device, which is known to be yours,
Yep.
registered to you. You have your number that says, yeah, I got a good biometric read.
Okay.
And when you pair those two together, it sends those off as a yes or a no. That's it. And
Okay.
that yes or no goes up to maybe a web page you're trying to log into, or your computer, or your tablet, or whatever. So that's
Interesting.
the essence of a passkey.
So is that the same as when you go to the airport and they take your picture?
Yeah. Yeah, the
Because
pictures they're taking, they're
I
plotting again, same thing.
okay, because I did ask, I was curious, right? I think sometimes my husband probably wishes I wasn't in this area, but I'm curious, and I'm like, there's a lot of people that don't want their pictures taken.
Yeah.
And so she's like, the scanning that's done is automatically deleted within, I think she said, a couple minutes after the scan is done. But so
Mhm.
it's the same thing as if you were gonna be, like, logging, it's looking for those points, but I think a
Exactly.
lot of people think that it's giving information to, in that instance, would be the government because it's
Mm-mm.
TSA that you're
It
going through. Um
so let me again explain that technology, because I've actually installed that exact technology at Fort Lauderdale Airport,
Oh,
Chicago
wow.
O'Hare, and Boston.
Okay.
So I've done it, and Washington DC, Washington
Oh,
National.
wow.
So
Okay.
I have had exposure to all of those technologies, and every single one of them, they may take a picture of you and it gets stored locally so that they can do the plot
Right.
on the system in a 2D instead of in this 3D thing real time. But it has to delete it, because here's the catch: pictures are not a small bandwidth thing. The server that's
Ah,
letting you in is
yes.
not it's not in that device. It's back somewhere back in the network. And if you know what's going on with the FAA right now, the FAA is having a really big problem with the fact that not all of their airports are connected with fiber. They don't have great bandwidth. So a lot of them have dial-up lines. I know that sounds nuts, but
Wow.
DSL and
Yeah.
coax cable, and that's their backbone. So they don't always have the highest possible bandwidth. And guess what that's prioritized for? Uh, Air traffic control.
Yes.
So they're
Yes.
not going to let the security guy who
Right.
installed this
Take
camera
all the
take
bandwidth
all
with
that
those
bandwidth.
pictures. Right.
And
Well,
if they did, they would
that
get a
makes
lease
total
line for it.
sense, right?
Say
You
it again?
definitely want the bandwidth going to air traffic control.
Exactly.
I mean,
So
that's the safety
there's no
part of
way
it.
that
Yeah,
when you think about the fact that they handle maybe 1,000 flights with 250 people on each flight,
a
and
day.
they're gonna take all of those pictures and stuff it through a tiny pipe, it's
No.
not gonna happen.
No, when you think
So
about just on your phone, right?
Mhm.
Whatever cloud storage you have, you know, you might have a lot of photos on your phone,
Right.
maybe not too many videos, but you can pretty quickly get to a point where you've got to go in and start deleting things
Yes. Yeah,
before it'll start saving more things on there because or you have to buy more storage.
exactly.
So,
And,
yeah.
so if you go back to a little bit of computer terminology for a second,
Mhm.
when we started out with computers, we started with bits, which is a 1 or a 0, right?
Okay.
And then we got to bytes, which is 8 of those, right?
Okay.
And then your passwords tend to be, if you've got 16 words, that's maybe 128 bits, 128 ones and zeros, okay? And that pattern of 128, that's nothing to shoot across that wire, but that's 128 bits. You're gonna take a picture which has 2.5 million bits or
Bits. Oh,
so.
wow.
and try
Okay.
and send that.
Yeah.
It can't stuff that much data quickly enough across the wire to do that kind of decision making. So it's really a very small number that goes across the wire. It's not your picture. You don't have to worry.
Yeah.
It
It's just
feels
enough to
intrusive.
capture those focal points that determine that, hey, this is you.
Yes, and the
Okay.
only reason they have a picture on the local device is the local device has a processor, a small processor compared to your computer, but that small processor has to be able to work with the image. When you are standing in front of the camera,
Mhm.
that is that image of you is like our video right now. That's a lot of bandwidth going into the camera.
Right.
So
Right.
it captures one still. It tries to wait until you get, just
Yes,
right,
exactly. It because
and it snaps
you
the
see
still.
it going in there, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes it
and
won't take the picture
right,
until
and so
you
it can't take a video of you and then find the plot points because you might be moving,
right.
and so it needs to snap that one shot, and then it plots it out, and it sticks it in and says, "Okay, here's the 16-bit, character set or whatever. Here's the 16 bits that make up the face that I caught," and
Yeah.
then it compares that 16-bit to a big database of other 16-bit numbers that it knows.
Got it.
That might be the part where it goes out and comes back.
But it's
Because
a
it may need
number.
help for that.
Okay, so um when I mentioned passkeys and I said facial recognition or fingerprint, it also talks about a pin.
Mhm,
And this actually just came up. One of the attendees yesterday had asked this question. First person in 4 years, and we've talked to probably close to 8,000 people that has asked this question.
mhm,
And it was, well, a pin, that seems like a pin could be easily figured out, and then
mhm,
someone like a password, and then someone could get into your device. So how is the pin more safe than a
mm,
password?
right. So, you're looking for multi-factors. So, multi-factors include who you are, what you have, and what you know. So,
Got
you're
it?
not doing just a PIN. You're doing the PIN plus the device you're on, which is what you have. So, when you do this, if you don't have the phone has maybe a 256-bit
Okay.
knowledge of who you are encoded on here. Your PIN is done only on that device. You may
Got
use
it.
it in multiple places, but technically it's unique to this device. My computer, I can use different pins. I could use the same pin, but let's face it, the same advice exists for pins that exist for passwords. Try and change it up. On my computer, I have one pin. On my tablet, I have a different pin. On my phone, I have a different pin. So if you have a device unique pin, then the pin is really only unlocking the thing you have, which is that one factor or the two
So
factors of authentication.
so the pin with a passkey would be a 4 or 6 digit pin number that you come up with,
Right.
not like a multi-factor authentication that it's just a random
Exactly.
sequence that is sent to you.
This isn't when they send you the code.
Right.
This is
This
you
is
putting the pin on, and the only reason the pin works is because it's you in a device you own.
okay. So it's you could have someone else's phone, your pin's not gonna work
Correct.
in that phone because it's someone else's phone.
Exactly.
So somebody would actually physically have to have your phone and know what your PIN number is in
Mhm.
order then to be able to get in, which would be somebody would physically need to have your phone. And I
Exactly.
see this when I watch, like, I like to watch the FBI shows, right?
Right.
Somebody's unconscious, they take the phone and put it in front of their face and
Yeah.
it lets them in, or they do the fingerprint, right? But somebody physically has to have your phone
Exactly.
and then know your PIN or
Right.
have you put your PIN number in.
That is a very legitimate workaround to some of these multi-factor authentication strategies because if somebody can scan your face, I mean, I know. We actually figured out how to lift fingerprints. We had to test all of the different fingerprint reader devices when I did
Mhm.
physical security, and so there was a way to take a tape and collect the fingerprint and then put it onto a silicon type glove and then take it off and then put like a piece of fruit or a piece of something inside that made in the glove that would give it
Like
like
there
a
was actually
biological
a
texture.
finger in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were able to do that, and then if you got you didn't have to always get the body temperature right, but now there are sensors that you have to get the body temperature right too. So all of those elements come into play when you're doing something like this. Is it possible to defeat them? Yes. And that's why they want 2 or 3 of these things. The thing you know, the thing you have, and who you are. So those 3 things together make it much harder to spoof. But that doesn't mean it's possible. But
Anything's possible,
anything's
right? I mean,
possible.
anything. And that's why I tell them nothing's foolproof, right? So, you know, that right there seems like that's a deterrent
It is. Yeah.
because that would take a lot longer to do for a scammer to do. Because
Mhm.
one, they have to have the physical device. 2, they're going to have to try to lift your fingerprint from someplace on a piece of tape, put it on a silicone glove, do
Yep.
this, right? If they've got your phone, chances are they might have you, I don't know, but it just seems like it's a lot of work.
It
And
is.
we know that they're lazy and
Yeah.
they have enough low-hanging fruit. They're going to go after other more simpler ways
Exactly.
to
As a
do
matter of
things.
fact, I
So
wrote an article a while ago, which was make it just difficult enough that they say too much trouble, moving on.
yeah, right.
So,
No, it makes total sense. I don't want to climb the tree. I just want to grab what's
oh, give me the
available.
fruit.
Exactly. I'm going to take what's hanging low. Yeah, I don't want to
Exactly.
have to climb the tree to get the fruit. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes total sense. Well, I want to move on to the password managers. So I get asked this
Mhm.
question a lot, and not just with password managers. It could be with credit monitoring software. It could be with antivirus software. A lot of different, softwares out there for different things, VPNs. And they're like, well, what's the best one? And
Mhm.
it's like, you know, one that's really hard because everyone's personal situation is different
Yep.
for what they're looking for, the risk they want to take or not take, the budget they have available to spend on this.
Mhm.
Everything is, and there's so many of them out there. So, what we suggest is, just type in um, the best password managers for 2026. And if you
Mhm.
want to say the best password managers for seniors for 2026. You're going to get all these tech companies
Mhm.
they constantly monitor these softwares and they evaluate them. They go
Yep.
through and see how they work. They have a whole tech staff, right? That's all they do.
Right.
And then they're always updating these articles and they will rate them and they will tell you the pros and cons as to why the positives, the negatives,
Yep.
and then they tell you about it. And they might even say, we've rated this one the best for seniors, and this is why.
Exactly.
And so I said, that's why we don't recommend any specific password manager or any specific software,
Yep.
because what works for me might not work for you and
Correct.
vice versa, because there's so many individual factors that come into play when you're determining what you want to get. But have you come across any password managers that just seem to work better for the older adult population?
Um, yes and no.
Okay.
So, so first off, when it comes to older population, I have 2 parents. They're both fortunately still alive. And I have a password manager family profile that I manage for
Okay.
both of them. Okay.
Okay.
So, number one, you got the who knows how to program a VCR person in your family. You have to have that person in your family in a perfect world.
Yeah.
So, and then the second part has to do with where do you use it? When do you use it? And how do you use it? Right. So, when it comes to password managers, you have to ask yourself, am I on a Windows machine, a Mac, a
Yep.
tablet, a
Yep.
phone, whatever? And in a lot of cases, and also, do you have multiple things? Like I
Mhm.
have a Windows laptop over here, an iPad, my iPhone, and then I also have another PC downstairs that I use. So
Okay.
all of these different computers, I just go from one to the other, and I want to have the same exact password manager on all of them, right? That way I don't have to think.
Absolutely.
It transitions operating system to operating system, and it synchronizes the passwords so I don't have to worry about it. But there's a lot of people will say there's a danger in that because once you have something that synchronizes, you have a problem. But here's the catch to that. Using a password manager, I'm going to divert for a second to
Sure.
another technology, totally
Okay.
separate. There are cars, and then there are Teslas, and I'm bringing this up because
Okay.
Tesla has one feature that no other car has, and that is self-driving. So if you
Ah,
want a car that can drive itself, the only car on the market that can truly do it for a consumer safely is a Tesla. Every
okay.
other car has maybe driver assist and a couple of
Right.
other things like that. So
Okay.
when it comes to that, that safety driving technology is 10 times better than a human being, period, across the board. Now, let's step out of that. The reason that's important is because we drive, eventually we stop driving as well. And if a computer can do it 10 times better than us, great. Same thing goes for our passwords here.
Okay.
The network connection between the passwords is a sophisticated thing to hack. So it's not low hanging fruit. It's
Okay.
not something that's going to be easily picked up. In most cases, the databases for those password managers on your local machine,
Mhm.
it's all heavily encrypted. So no hackers going after your database. It's too hard. The servers, they may have the ability to hack in, and you may have heard like one password got hacked and things like that.
Yes, there were a
Okay.
few of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
They were
it's
only
actually
able to get
okay.
into the company's data, not into anybody's vaults.
Exactly. All of
Yeah.
your encrypted data is not low hanging fruit. And so you're 99% or not way, way higher than 99% of the time. It's way safer to use a password manager than it is to not have one. And that's
Okay.
exactly why I was bringing up the Tesla thing. Way safer to have self driving than not having it, is all the point was.
Okay.
So it's safer to have a password manager, but here's your questions. Do you need it on multiple operating systems? Is it Windows, Apple,
True. Okay.
iPads, maybe even Linux? So if that's a yes, that's your first most important technology.
Okay.
Second, do you have a DVR programmer in your family who's going to help you? And if so, then you want to know, do they have a family package so that I can
Okay.
have 5 or 10 or 15 people in a
Makes
family
sense.
all, right?
Mhm.
And then do they have the ability to have somebody manage for everybody? And when somebody manages for everybody, they can't see your passwords, but they can help make sure that if you get locked out, they get you back in.
That is great. That is great because that's one thing that we do talk to them about is, with the password managers, you don't have to worry about coming up with strong passwords. They will automatically generate them for you. When you go to log in, you click on the icon, it fills everything in for you. There's a place for notes. So, like some of the financial accounts I get into, it's been issued like a business code.
Mhm.
Right, and so I have to have that business code, and I put that in the notes, or sometimes the security questions, I have those in the notes, so I don't have to have them written down someplace. Because when I answer security questions, I lie, and it's like, I can't remember all those lies, the answers
Sure.
I've given, right?
Yep,
You
exactly.
gotta have them in there someplace, but we say you still have to remember the password to your vault, because if you
Get
don't
it.
have it or you forget it, you can't call the company and give them your account information because they don't have it.
Right.
You're locked out.
Yes, you're locked
And
out and
so
technically you delete the whole thing.
yes, and so that's great that they would have the capability with some of their plans to be able to have someone else be the manager, in essence, a family plan. So
Exactly.
then in your instance, you are the manager for yours and your parents. And
Exactly.
so as they get older, if some cognitive decline starts to happen, whatever starts to happen, if they have it written down and they might have forgotten where they keep it for safekeeping or however they keep it,
Mhm.
they don't have to worry about that because they can just say, hey, I need to do this, or what's my password, or can you come help me,
Yes,
with
exactly.
this. So that's great. The
Mhm.
family plan. I like
Yep.
that.
And so there are a number of companies out there that have family plan, and it can be a corporate plan, by the way. It doesn't have to be just a family plan. So if you had, like, my mother's the oldest of 11, my father's the third of 9.
Oh, wow.
So I literally have about 100 cousins, no joke.
Yes.
And
I've got about 50.
yeah, I don't do, this for my family, but if somebody asked me to, I certainly could, and that would be logical because I would say, "I'll take care of the whole family, and if you have a problem, you just text me or send me a note, and I'll just do a quick unlock." Now, I don't really wanna do that because the family's so big
Right.
and so many, I guarantee you there's gonna, but I could have a couple of people in a family do that, and we could get one product that can do it. And if that was the case, and everybody contributed like $10 or $20,
Yeah.
then you could actually buy one of those much more expensive corporate plans for a large group, and it wouldn't be a big deal. And the corporate
That
plans, by the way, have the best security, comparatively speaking.
that makes sense because they have so much. There's so much more infrastructure and so many more human risk with corporations because of all the employees that they have,
Mhm.
right? And
Right.
and yes, they can have all these firewalls put up, but all it takes is one person, right, having
Exactly.
a weak password.
Yep.
Like I was doing my cybersecurity trainings, catching up on those, and in one of them, they talked about, and it was one major company. I don't remember which company it was that hackers were able to get in through an admin account
Mhm.
because that admin account was still using password, or no, it was using, I think, password 123 or something generic like
Yeah.
that. And so
Yep.
they were able to get in through that. And that's one person's mistake could affect the whole company, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, there's so much more that has to go into consideration when you're dealing with a company that has 10 employees, 100 employees, 1,000 employees. Um,
Yeah. And by the way, I was watching a show last night, on YouTube, and
okay.
it was called Family, or the channel was called Family Office.
Okay.
All right. And they're basically, now this is more for affluent, wealthy folks in a sense, but, especially when there's a lot of money in the families and they want to
Mhm.
make sure gets
Right.
passed down to their future generations. But the concept is brilliant, which is if you are part of a family and you've got at least 10 people in your family across everybody that matters,
Mhm.
you create a group called the family office. And you can have somebody outside the family administer this. But
Okay.
basically, they help you with things like IT solutions that might benefit the whole family. Like, why don't we just buy an Office 365 package for the whole family? Because we could get it cheaper if we bought it as 10 people instead of one.
So would the person that would be monitoring the family office, would that be more of like a tech support type of IT
Exactly.
person? Is who is
Exactly.
gonna monitor that?
So part of the family office would be that you have a person who works with a company. The company is the family office. And
Mhm.
that company, it could be all online, right?
Mhm.
No person involved. But it could also have an AI agent in it that services the whole family.
Yeah.
Or it could be, like a real corporation that does this for you, an appointed, trustee of a
Right.
trust, family
Right.
trust, right?
Right.
So the concept is that you have this person designated. Ideally, you have a company that can support it, and the whole family pays a few dollars into it so that this one entity can exist and take care of everybody in the family. And that is the organization that you get this, password manager managed by, so
Got it.
that they do 24, they part of the services that they would offer a 24 by 7 tech support for everybody in the family, and they understand every product you guys have purchased as a family, and
Okay.
they know, okay, I need to know Windows, I need to know Mac, I need to know iPad, and
Right.
they do the whole thing for everybody so that nobody has to, pray that the person who's the VCR guru is not on vacation.
That's true, right? I mean, because right, you don't want to be locked out for a week or two.
Yep.
Um,
And I think
yeah, that's
this is something that doesn't exist today, but should exist for elderly care, because in the case of folks like us getting a little bit older,
mhm,
we're saying, how do I take care of my 85-year-old father?
right,
And maybe, in my particular circumstances, I might want to go on a cruise and he can't connect with me, right? Well,
right,
he's out of luck, and I don't want to have that happen. So
right.
it makes sense to have, especially if you could do an association and do like, I'm going to offer some IT services through an association that takes care of your family, and the account
Nice.
is for your family.
Right, right. I mean, it's great. Like your parents have you, who is very adept in all of these tech services,
Mhm.
and
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 patient.
pardon me,
And patient.
and patient. Yeah. Sometimes you got to go outside of the family
Mhm.
to have not only the tech but also the patience and stuff like that. But that's great, right? And so that's a great resource to be able to say, hey, I when I'm looking for this, I want to get everything bundled together,
Mhm.
and I want to be able to use it for 10 people.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, that's great. I know we were going to get into talking about updates
Mhm.
today, but we've literally got 3 minutes left. So I don't know if you want
Well,
to say something very quickly about that or
yeah, let me give you my 1-minute thought. So you
Sure.
mentioned before antivirus and all
Yeah.
of these other things. Number one, the most important thing is that you harden your system. Hardening is done by keeping your patches up. Okay. So
Yep.
when Windows prompts you to update, do it. But I suggest you go to the gear and look at the updates manually. Don't just go because of pop up. Don't use the pop up to say start that, because that could be malicious.
That could be malicious, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
only go to the gear or system settings off of Windows, to the settings, and then go to Windows Update and do your update. Same thing with Macs, same thing with iPads. You can
So
do these in the system settings directly.
so let's talk about that then. Is that where you would, because I've explained to people how to like remove their cache, right? If something
Mhm.
quirky is going on or if they want to get rid of the cookies or something like that. You go into those 3 dots, those 3 vertical dots on the
Yep.
top right. You go
Mhm.
down towards the bottom where it says settings
Right. Or
eh,
preferences.
or preferences. And then where do you go from there? Is there like updates?
Yeah, typically, especially with Windows, at the bottom of the list is an item that says Windows Update.
Okay.
With Macs, it's a little bit more behind the scene, so
Okay.
it's not as typically, but generally speaking, as long as you have your Macs turned, when you first go into your preferences, you automatically know auto update, and it'll do it. You don't have to. Macs are pretty
Right.
good about not asking you. Um, so yeah, those are the two key things. So update your system, update your apps, your whatever software you have
Absolutely.
when it says
Yes.
to update. And then when it comes to antivirus, here's the key. You want something local that deals with malware. So
Mhm.
I'm going to say a brand name because there's one that's really well known called Malwarebytes.
Yes.
And there are many others like it, Bitdefender, a
Yes.
whole bunch of them. You
Right.
want one that's local. It's okay to rely on Windows and Mac embedded security to a degree.
Mhm.
The actual antivirus software these days, if you don't click on everything in your inbox and you don't click on any web page that just pops up, you can actually get by with that. If
Okay.
you are doing anything like, I'm going to say this, and this is going to be awkward in a way, but like, if you're the type of person that would actually visit a porn site or a gaming hack site or anything like that, that is
People do.
behavior that is uncomfortable, not uncomfortable, it's dangerous in the
Mhm.
sense that those are hackable sites, really hacked sites in many cases. So as much as it's uncomfortable to talk about that, you have to know if that is any time ever used, you're 80% more likely to get infected with something. So you have
Okay.
to have an extra antivirus
Layer.
to protect the
Yeah.
system. And
Yeah.
and I know that there's one that's very socially awkward, but the other one called gaming sites. If
Mhm.
you've got a kid in the house and they want to know how to hack Mario Brothers,
Yeah.
They're going to the gaming sites and they are malicious as heck.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's just good for everybody to have antivirus that tracks
Yeah.
malware and all of that on all of their devices,
Mhm.
including their cell phones, because it is a mobile computer.
Yeah.
And I always tell people your phone is only as safe as the security you have put on it. You
Yeah.
have to ask
Well,
yourself, what damage can someone do if they're in my phone?
the truth
So
is your phone is only safe as the behavior you use it with.
true. That's the other part of
That's
it,
the
is the
first part.
human behavior. The
And
human
then
behavior.
the malware is so much harder to get on a device these days, the way that all of these devices are configured, that a lot of the native security software is actually adequate. Paying for McAfee, Symantec, all of the others. Some of the things that you have to think about with those that are like Kaspersky was actually Russian owned.
Yeah.
Nation state hackers have been all
Yeah.
over that for years.
Right.
Symantec is now owned by China. They were bought by Broadcom, and Broadcom
Okay.
is a Chinese. They
Well,
were
yeah. So you do,
you
like
have
you
these
said,
things to
locally,
think
you have
about.
to look at these things, but
Yeah, and
we are a minute over time and
sorry.
I still need to close, but we are definitely in March. We're going to do this again.
Sounds good.
And maybe we'll get more into AI, like the
Yeah,
deep fake
absolutely.
videos and stuff like that. But thank you so much, David, for doing this. Lots of great, valuable information. Do you want to really quick tell people you do a radio show as well, a podcast, how they can find it?
I do. I have a channel on YouTube called The Second Sip, and the
Okay.
idea behind it is a sip of coffee. I
Okay.
do it a little bit later in the morning,
Okay.
or even in the afternoon. So it's the second sip because it's not going to be your first sip of coffee.
Okay.
And
All right.
basically, I cover a lot of AI tech and security tech there.
Okay. Very good. And they can find that on YouTube, The Second
Correct.
Sip. All right. Awesome. Thanks again, David. Great conversation. And we're going to have you back soon.
Sounds good. Talk to
All
you soon.
right. Thanks. All right, everyone. That's it for today. We went over a little bit. So just remember roseadvocacy.org. You can find our social media channels. Scroll down to the bottom of the homepage. You'll find where you can sign up for our mailed and or emailed newsletters, get our safety checklist, and don't forget to click subscribe so you never miss an episode of Let's Talk About Scams. You'll see Brian next week. Thank you.
Well, that's all the knowledge for this episode. Tune in every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time on K4HD Radio at k4hd.com as Joyce explores a variety of knowledge so you have the power to make scam protection your healthy habit. And until then, feel free to reach out to Joyce and let's talk about scams.